Welcome to Hastings Outdoors, straight from the Mississippi Flyway to your hearts. Let's go! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hastings Outdoors. I'm your host, Andrew, coming to you not live in any way, shape, or form from the What Are You Doing, Sam? Goodness gracious. From the Hastings Outdoor Studios located in the Dream Building Garage, the world-renowned Dream Building Garage. My co-host, Sam, is currently attacking a stuffed duck. Welcome. Come on in, have a seat, kick your feet up, and relax. The audio sounds goofy to me, but I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be okay, guys. I'm going to try to tweak my headphones just a pinch here. It's a little loud, but it'll be all right. So, man, I tell you what, guys. It's been a week. It seems like, I don't know. It seems like things for me have just been kind of hectic lately, and it's kind of, I mean, that's just life, right? I get it, no big deal. Keep pushing, struggling. Definitely keep struggling. Keep struggling through it, yeah, grinding it out, guys. But interestingly enough, this is being recorded on November 1st. As far as the time it airs, it'll probably air on November 2nd, but that's not really important right now. What I'm getting at is yesterday, so 10/31/23, yesterday, craziest thing. We had a cold front come through, and it brought some snow, and it kind of seemed like a little bit of a flurry, just whatever. Cold front came through, dropped the temperature. The high yesterday, I think, was in the ballpark of like 34, something like that. And the low at night for the last couple nights has been 26-ish degrees, low 20s, mid 20s, whatever. And I didn't think anything of it. Okay, it's not uncommon in northern Indiana to see snow in October. It's not uncommon at all. And actually, there's been several deer seasons back when I had some deer hunting property, that it would snow, the second to last week of October, something like that, end of October, pretty common. But I wasn't expecting it because the weather literally, was it a week ago? Yeah, I think it was this time last week. So early last week, it was pretty warm, upper 70s, and I'd say 60s, 50s at night. And it kind of tapered off as the front approached last weekend. And last Saturday I think a high was 54. It was really windy though, so it felt a lot chillier than it was. But that front that came in last week also dropped the temps early this week, and we got some snow, guys. It hasn't stuck around. Once the sun came out today, it's pretty much dissipated, it's melted. But I woke up this morning on my way to work, and boom, about an inch-ish of snow on the ground. A thick dusting, not a complete cover, but a thick dusting of snow, enough to know that it definitely absolutely snowed. You can still see some grass poking through, so it's not a ton of snow, but that was crazy, absolutely crazy. So literally, I know weather can do strange things everywhere. There are some places that are a little more consistent than others, whatever, right? And everyone talks about the weather in their area like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy, and it is. Weather is crazy. It's predictable-ish. You don't know, but so I'm kind of ranting on that. But so going from I think last week to this week, so being in the upper 70s, feeling kind of hot almost at times, to a week later it's snowing, and I think the high today is 41, and it ain't there yet. And it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. And so, man, it's crazy. So the cool thing is, though, with that front coming through, I was hoping and praying that it would also push birds down from the northern regions of Canada to my region of the country. And so it kind of did. I haven't laid eyes on it yet. But one thing I want to do is, where's that? MigrationStationUSA.com, guys. I just found out about this not that long ago, and so I don't know how to put too much weight into this. I think it's all kind of a self-report type thing. People from across the country, they just kind of report what they're seeing, that kind of thing. And so I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be relatively accurate, or close to it. And so I checked, November 1st, guys. And so if you guys aren't familiar with this, I'd strongly encourage you guys to check it out, you waterfowl hunters or even bird watchers, whatever it may be. MigrationStationUSA.com. And I'm trying to think of a way to show you guys this. I need to figure out how to like share my screen and record and all that at the same time. Haven't got that far yet, guys. I stay busy most of the time. But let's see here. You can kind of make it out that there's a map there. I do apologize. There's a bit of glare. And if you can see it, there are 3 options on the right-hand side of my phone. And then there's basically a map, and you can see kind of the header across the top. So it's going to show you a map of the United States, North America in general. Most of the information is given for the United States. And depending on how much you zoom in, it kind of changes how it looks. So I try to zoom in on the Mississippi Flyway, and not up close, but essentially I can see from Thunder Bay to the Gulf of Mexico, and with Indiana being relatively centralized on the screen, that's not important. But I'm kind of talking. Anywho, so you can select all ducks, mallards, or Canada geese. That was those 3 options I showed you guys on the right side of the screen here. Now, the more you zoom in, the less it seems to be on the map as far as coverage, as far as the migration goes. And the more you zoom out, it looks like it's just an absolute flood of birds coming in. But that being said, I try to zoom in to where I can pretty much see almost to Labrador, down to the Gulf of Mexico, the bottom of Texas, down, Corpus Christi area, with Indiana in the middle. I'll probably screenshot this and throw it up on Instagram for you guys to see. And so I don't zoom in too much. I don't zoom out too much, just because I want to have a realistic expectation here, guys. So if you click click Canada geese, it'll show you, it'll shadow the areas. And I do apologize, guys. This is a horrible way to show you. I think you're just seeing the Great Lakes at this point. But it'll shadow certain areas where people have reported birds, and then you click mallards. It'll show you areas where people have reported mallards, and then all ducks. It kind of shows you, the works. And so I was watching this and kind of tracking it last week. We got a lot of warmth last week, and I didn't expect to see much popping up here, and that was pretty accurate. But approaching the end of last week, temperatures were dropping. A nice front came through down from Canadian land, and this week, the beginning of this week so far, up until today, it's been the coverage or the migration has been expanding, whatever it may be, increasing, that kind of thing. And so fingers crossed, guys, Lord willing, I can get out there, find a spot where I can actually put eyes on birds, and then hopefully the next day or whatever, go hunt it. But migration's on, guys. Migration is on, and that front did a lot to push birds south. So for those of you in Iowa, and Iowa specifically, I should say, south and west-ish, Minnesota and Iowa, get ready. You guys should be in the thick of it right about meow. And also for Nebraska, eastern Nebraska, southwest Minnesota. Yeah, as far as this map goes, you guys are right in the thick of it for pretty much all waterfowl. And again, I'm kind of jealous of this, but western Illinois, southeastern Iowa, and northeastern Missouri, you guys should also be right in the thick of it according to this map. So if you guys use this and you think it's accurate, send a comment or something, guys. I'd love to hear someone else's opinion on this, thoughts, concerns, whatever it may be. Obviously, I'm not looking to bash any company, so try not to keep it negative. If you have a form of criticism, try to keep it constructive, try to keep it positive. Let's not just go bashing or being silly or just, migration station stinks, whatever. No. I want constructive criticism or, genuine, honest concerns, thoughts, opinions, etc. But if you guys use this, let me know. I've been checking it out and trying to keep an eye out because it's kind of cool because I can kind of forecast, my upcoming hunts to an extent. it isn't always, things like this, even with the weather, it's not always accurate. But hey, gives me hope, right? So, anywho, um, yeah, sorry. Oh man, guys, I'm at the tail end of head cold number 2 for the weekend. So, yeah, or not the weekend, whatever it is, the season. For those of you young gentlemans out there who aren't married, you're rocking that bachelor life, whatever it may be. You're not married, and you specifically don't have children. Enjoy your immune system while you can. I love my kids to death, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. But goodness gracious, when they start going to school and daycare and that kind of thing, man, they bring all sorts of little colds and bugs and all kinds of stuff home. And it's kind of crazy because I never used to get sick really until I still don't to for a large extent. I don't get sick. I think I've had the flu maybe 2 or 3 times that I can remember. So thank the Lord for that. But it seems like I started off with kind of some sniffle things coming on as soon as school, right after school started up, and then kind of got over that, and then boom, head cold comes on, and then kind of got over that, and then it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Here we go. It's a good time, guys. It's a good time, but I'm kind of at the tail end of that, thank the Lord, and yeah. So, pardon me if you hear a little here and there or something like that. I do have the mute button. But, sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. Anywho's it's so for this episode, guys, I kind of dove in a little bit head first on the whole migration station. I got excited about that. There you go, I used the mute button. But I've been thinking about this concept or this idea of what to do as far as podcasting goes. And one thing I've noticed about a lot of waterfowl podcasts out there is, and they're good podcasts, like the Mid Valley Mercenary. I think it's MVM on Spotify. Duck Gun Chronicles or Duck Gun Podcast, decent show. I actually, man, I've been looking into a couple of them, and I know Rogers Sporting Goods has one, and it kind of covers a lot of things, not just waterfowl. And also, the North American Waterfowler by what's his face? Oh, Elliot Snyder. Yeah. So I believe he's out. Is he in Kansas? I don't know. Somewhere out there, out in the Central Flyway, like a champ. Yes, I have my own personal preferences for some of them. Some of them are whatever. This one's probably whatever. But no, I mean, I have my personal preferences for different podcasts and stuff like that, and I'll listen to a variety of things, just trying to pick up tidbits and tricks and information and all that kind of stuff, and see what other people are doing. Maybe I can learn something different. Say the boys out in the Pacific region are trying this with their motion duck spreader or whatever it may be, and it seems to be working well for mallards, whatever, stuff like that. Little different techniques, tips, tricks, stuff like that along the way. And I believe I totally just spit across to the camera ish. Anywho, so I tried to pick up information and just try to learn, absorb stuff, little things here and there. And there's been a lot of times, guys, where from listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video, something like that, that I've been in a scenario where I'm like, okay, I need to fix this situation. What I do, and something will come to mind like, oh yeah, well, I was listening to Jordan on the Duck Gun podcast, and he talked about this situation where he did this, tried this, and it seemed to work out okay. So I kind of apply that same theory to mine, or maybe tweak it a little bit, or just go off of that theory, and it seems to work. And so, yeah, getting kind of long-winded, but the one common theme that I have seen, or I haven't seen, I should say, in a lot of waterfowl podcasts is that a lot of people talk about hunting or the hunt, and maybe some little things here, getting ready for the hunt, plans to go hunt. A lot of it's hunting focused, which is awesome. However, my thought was, why don't we take a little more educational or informational approach and talk about how to do it. Like the infotainment part of it on actually the nuts and bolts of how to get out there, how to set your decoy spread, uh, stuff like that. And because I know last year, for those of you who don't know, last season, so last year was my first waterfowl season ever. I didn't know anything about it. I knew that you needed a boat, decoys, ducks like calls for some reason, and obviously a gun. But outside of that, like I didn't know much. I didn't really know much. And it seems to be like it seems to me that there's almost endless information or endless data, endless whatever content you can absorb and dive into to try and learn about duck hunting, waterfowl hunting, goose hunting, whatever it may be. And a lot of it's really good. I will just throw this out here. A lot of the information I relied on for my first duck season, and even still now, is from Joel Strickland on YouTube. Check out Surviving, I believe it's Surviving Duck Season. Joel Strickland on YouTube. That dude has so much information and so many videos that are extraordinarily helpful, extraordinarily informational. And literally, when I started duck calling, I picked up a call and, okay, well, here's a duck call. What do I do with it? Okay, well, that doesn't sound like a quack. How do I make this sound like a duck? And then, not only how do I make this sound like a duck, but what do I do with it in certain situations? What do I do with it if the ducks are flying by really fast? What do I do with it if I quack at them and then they just circle and they're circling and circling and circling? What do I do? Situational application. That's the kind of thing I was interested in. And guys, check out Surviving Duck Season with Joel Strickland. He has a very extremely helpful video on calling. He has several videos on calling, I believe. I think it's kind of a bit of a series here. He talks about duck calls, talks about different calls, and he talks about calling itself on how to get that quack, and then also he talks about the situational application and the implementation of what calls to use, when to call them, or when to use them, that kind of thing. And so that's great on YouTube, but I also like to listen to podcasts when I'm working, when I'm doing something else, and I can't always watch. And to be honest with you guys, as far as watching videos go, I really don't have time to sit down and watch something. I've been doing that a lot with goose calling here lately just because I need all the help I can get. But on an average day, I don't have time to sit down and watch something. I don't watch a lot of stuff. So, however, with a podcast, with especially audio format, audio and video, whatever, like this one, it's audio and video. But I can listen to a podcast while I'm cutting the grass, while I'm driving to town to do something, while I'm driving to work. Even turn one on when I'm in the shower in the morning just to freshen up on something, or listen to a sermon, something like that. I can do other things while I'm getting information, and that's extraordinarily helpful. And especially when life gets really hectic and busy, you can still learn, you can still whatever. Long story short, there's not a lot of podcasts out there that are kind of how-to or really informational on like I said, the nuts and bolts of what to do and that kind of thing. And guys, I'm not going to pretend that I'm some sort of expert in waterfowl hunting. I'm not, and not at all. I am extraordinarily new to this. I am very much a rookie, and so most of the information I will provide some of it has come from my own personal experience, although it's limited. And most of it, the big chunk of it, has come from other people that have shared their experience, shared their knowledge and information. And that's crucial, guys. That's honestly, it's one of the most helpful things I think anyone can have in any situation, is to have someone who is willing to share information, or even a mentor or something like that, to kind of help you and coach you along and teach you. And, not trying to make a pun here, but someone to take you under their wing and to apprentice you and that kind of thing. And so, unfortunately, I don't have that right now, but I do have plenty of resources thanks to the interwebs and YouTube, and guys like Joel Strickland, guys like Bobby Guy, Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles and Duck Gun Podcast, Elliot Snyder from North American Waterfowler. I don't leave anybody out here, but I'm horrible at recalling all these names. Mid Valley Mercenary, stuff like that, guys. All these resources that are wonderful and entertaining and informational. That's what I got. So, long-ish rant there, guys, and I won't be able to cover a lot of ground here today, just because of time constraints. But that was an extraordinarily long introduction. So, before I get too much further, I'm going to dive right into the mission statement, guys. So the mission statement for Hastings Outdoors. If you listened to the last handful of episodes, couple episodes, 3, whatever maybe, I don't know. You already know this, but I'm going to throw this out there again because I want to make sure that I lead with this as best as I can. Just so you guys know, I'm not looking to get rich. I'm not looking to get famous. I'm not looking. I just do this as a hobby, guys. I do it as a hobby when I can, as I can, and I like sharing information. And I like podcasts. I really do like podcasts because I think they're informational. They can be entertaining. I like the term infotainment. I don't know, it's kind of fun. You can learn a little tidbit. Laugh a little bit. I don't know. Anywho, because it's mission statement for Hastings Outdoors: sharing my waterfowl experience and promoting conservation of our natural resources. That's it, guys. That's why I want to do this. I want to promote conservation, share my experience, and hopefully either entertain you or inform you. A little bit of both, maybe. Make you chuckle at work. I don't know. We'll figure it out, right? It's all good. Dude, are you going to sleep already? Am I that boring? I don't even appreciate it. That's just rude. You do this. You've done this last 3 episodes, and you're falling asleep on me. Sam's. Oh, speaking of Sam real quick, guys. Yeah. So he's got his first vet appointment Thursday. Don't tell him. But interestingly enough, guys, keep an eye on your dogs, especially in the Midwest. You northern states, areas, provinces, all that good stuff. You probably don't have to worry about this right now too much. But this past weekend when I was scouting, relatively warm weather, I think the high that day was mid-60s. But little Sam here picked up a couple of ticks. Es no bueno. Es no bueno. And so, yeah, that was pretty interesting. Fortunately, at least around the house, with the other dogs and stuff like that, haven't had to deal with that too much. I try to keep everything pretty well groomed. It's not a golf course, guys. It ain't a golf course. But I try to keep everything trimmed, cleaned, weed-free as best I can without using a lot of harsh chemicals. I just don't like it. But fortunately, and thank the Lord, we have not had too many tick issues around the homestead here. However, Sam and I were in the thick of it, and he picked up a couple. So that was fun last night, getting those little rotten scoundrel pests off my little buddy here. But yeah, anywho, randomness, rambling on. All right. So guys, earlier today, I was kind of brainstorming, and this idea kind of popped in my head to try to give you guys some information. Because, like I said, there's really a lack of, in my opinion, there is a lack of basically the how-to for waterfowl hunting. And I will probably stretch this out. I'm going to make a note real quick, guys. I will probably stretch this how-to aspect into a lot of things, expanding into deer hunting, small game hunting, rabbit, squirrel, dove, that kind of thing. And I will share my experience, and even fishing, probably towards spring when I'm getting the itch to fish. I'll get into the nuts and bolts of it and how I do things, how I've learned things, how other people have shared information with me, that kind of thing. And really just try to give you guys info. Because, like I said, it seems like it's lacking. So here we go, guys. The one thing I want to start with is decoys, man. There's a lot you can cover with decoys. There's a lot to be said about decoys, but I think that the number one thing with your decoys, as far as the hunting application goes, is setting out your spread. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Also, I want to kind of talk about decoy management. Like, what to do with these things in the boat, in the truck, that kind of thing. Now, I'll dive in that in a minute. But basically, just want to dive into decoys. Dive into decoys and talk about what I've learned, what I've tried, that kind of thing. All that good stuff, guys. And so, as I make a few notes here of some topics I wanted to cover because I forgot my list in the house, and I really don't want to stop this podcast and start over. Bear with me. But there is a lot you can cover on decoys, and honestly, guys, I think you can get into the weeds as far as you want to with decoys. So, I'm going to try to give you guys the overview, a little bit of information, just kind of tips and tricks that I tried to do myself, that kind of thing, and hopefully it helps you guys. There's no right way to do this, really. It really boils down, and a lot of this does. It boils down to personal preference, what works best for you, what seems to be most convenient for you, that kind of thing. So this isn't the end all and be all of decoys, but for your information, here we go. So, some things that I kind of briefly talked about is, decoy management. How are you storing these? How are you transporting them? How are you carrying them? That kind of thing. And then your spread. What do you do? How do you put these decoys out here? You just chuck them in the water and hope it works? I don't know. I didn't know, so I had to learn. Rigs. What kind of rigs are you going to use? How are you going to keep them in place? What are you going to use to anchor them? That kind of thing. And then I'll dive in a little bit into brands here. I'm going to lead with that because I feel like this is where a lot of people get hung up. So if you guys are new to waterfowling, if you guys aren't new, then hey, welcome. But as far as brand of decoys go, guys, what I will say is I honestly and firmly believe you don't have to spend a ton of money on decoys. You don't. Fortunately for me, I checked out Rogers Sporting Goods somewhere about late spring. Just see what they had because I was wanting to get some decoys because I had some older ones I painted and I kind of had a hodgepodge of stuff I found on Marketplace, and I just wanted to see what I could find, guys. And so I found a lot of Final Approach, and I think most of my decoys, except for I got some Flambos in there. I've got some feeder butts that I'm not really sure what brand they are. Sorry. And then I think that's it. Other than the old wood duck decoys I don't know what they are either, but they're ancient, so who knows. Anywho, so most of mine are Final Approach, and the reason most of mine are Final Approach is, one, I like the brand. They have a lot of good stuff, and they have a lot of good offerings, and their decoys are pretty solid, guys. They look good, and I can't really say that, how longevity-wise how they look yet because this is going to be the first season I've used them, but they look great out of the box, and I got them on sale through Rogers Sporting Goods at a pretty hefty discount. I think I've got a couple $100 or so, give or take a little bit here, of decoys, and I ended up with about 3 dozen new decoys for not a lot of money. So keep that in mind. But as far as brand goes, yes, there are a lot of really good brands out there. AV&X makes nice decoys. I've seen like G&H, they look good. I'm trying to think of all the brands I can even think of off the top of my hat. But don't get hung up on price. If you've got a decent budget and you want to, get some nice stuff, then okay, get some AV&X, man. They're really good decoys. But if you want to stretch your money a little farther and get more bang for your buck, maybe check out Final Approach. I don't know. It just depends on what you want and what you're going for. So, long story short, again, don't get hung up on brand. Honestly, guys, most of the decoys I hunted over for my first season, I think most of them were Flambeau. I think a majority of them were Flambeau. There's a handful of G&H in there, and then the rest I can't really remember. But yeah, don't get hung up on brand. There's a lot you can do with not spending a lot of money, and so I'll leave the brand portion at that. So that brings me to I'm kind of working backwards on my list here a little bit, but rigging decoys. I kind of spoke about this a few episodes ago now, but I like to run what they call Texas rigs. I really don't understand why they call it a Texas rig because I fish a lot. I fished my whole life, and an actual Texas rig is a little different than what this is, but I get the concept. Anywho, so I should have had some props here, guys. But just check out, look up Decoy leader, Decoy Texas rig. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's usually a 4 to 6 ounce weight at the bottom, and then there's a clip on the other end, and usually there's a loop so you can hook it into like a carabiner, that kind of thing. That's what I use for my decoys. Traditionally guys would have like a lead weight tied to their decoy, and you could let line out. You put a little bit extra of that decoy string, whatever you want to call it. Put a little extra around your decoy, and you can tie it off at different lengths and that kind of thing. But you'd have a lead weight attached to it. And although that seems extraordinarily functional, I wasn't a big fan of that because those lead weights, they're really bendy and you can lose them. And I didn't like the concept. It seemed like more work than was necessary, especially since Texas rigs are so common nowadays and so readily available. But I use the Texas rig style rigs, and I usually, most of mine are somewhere between 4 and 5 foot. I like a little extra. That way, when there is wind, you get a lot of motion. But a lot of places I hunt, or plan to hunt, however you want to look at it, where I will be sitting is relatively shallow, but not too far out. It could, there's a decent drop, and so I want to make sure that the decoys, I have enough leader. So worst case scenario, they don't move a lot. Best case scenario, they move a little bit. But I like to always, if most of the water you're going to be hunting is 3 foot or less, hey, get 4 footers. That's what I recommend. Because, like I said, there's wiggle room to let that decoy move freely to an extent. It'll still stay anchored in place, but give you a little bit of wiggle room there. So, anywho, that's the general concept of rigs. I prefer the Texas rigs. The only thing I don't like about the Texas rigs is when you're storing them. I like to store my Texas rigs without the decoys on them because I have a little bit. I'll get into the management side of this. I have the decoy bags, totes, whatever you're going to call them. And so I like to hang the rigs up because, I can't remember where I bought this, but I bought a kit to make my own rigs. And it came with, I think, like 300 pound or something like that monofilament. And that stuff is stout. It's basically like the plastic. I don't even know what the proper term is. The plastic material you use for like a weed eater. It's like that, but black. And in hindsight, if that stuff wouldn't get so brittle, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. But anywho, so that material is like that, and it's very strong, it's very sturdy, and it's held up really well. The only issue is, like every other brand or every kind of monofilament, it does have a tendency to get a bit of a memory to it. So these the rigs I have with that style of leader material, I hang without the decoys on them, or I try to hang them with the decoys on them during season, whatever it may be, because if you don't, they will get so twisted and get so much memory in them that it is a nightmare and it's a pain in the butt, and it's just a tangle fest waiting to happen. And so do keep that in mind when you're looking into what kind of rigs you may want, or that kind of thing. Because I bought a kit and it was enough to make roughly 3 to maybe 4 dozen, depending on how you do it. It came with crimps, clips, weights, and the leader material, the monofilament. And it worked out pretty good, but like I said, guys, there's that memory portion. And last season, that was a pain in the butt, because with the old duck boat I had, most of my decoys would be pushed up to the front, and I didn't have a decoy bag. I had like the big backpack tote, like pull string kind of bag, which I don't recommend unless you absolutely have to, because man, that was a tangle nightmare. I spent way too long last season trying to untangle decoys to set decoys, and it ticked me off. It ticked me off. And with that monofilament, also, guys, another little warning here. If you like to carry them on a carabiner, you like to string them out, get your decoys, throw them over your shoulder, take them wherever. That's cool. The only problem is that stuff. It's rigid enough that I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22. It's really rigid, but it also has a lot of memory. So as your decoys twist and spin, they'll get interlocked and all that stuff, and it is a pain in the butt and something you really don't want to deal with, at 5 a.m. in the pitch black, standing in 4 foot of water, trying to set your decoys. It's a pain in the butt. But so the other brand I guess I have of rigs is Rig 'em Right, Texas rigs. So they're actually pretty cheap. And I spoke about this before, but it was actually cheaper for me to buy a dozen of the pre-made Rig 'em Right Texas rigs for my decoys than it was to buy the weights and make my own with that monofilament that I have left over. Just throwing that out there. I think it was like $30 for a dozen pre-made and free shipping. Looking up the egg sinkers or the egg weights, whatever you want to call them, to get 6 ounces, I think it was 6 or 4 ounces. I can't remember. I would have been spending about $40 to get a dozen-ish of those weights, and it didn't make any sense to me because I already have some of the Rig 'em Right rigs, and why not just do it again? So those are made out of. It's kind of like it seems like a very small braided steel cable with a coating on it. They do not have very much memory to them. They will to an extent. I mean, if you get some kinks in them, that's there forever. But as far as the memory versus the monofilament, much easier to use. They still get tangled up and all that stuff, but it's also a lot easier to untangle them. So there's that for what it's worth. So we talked about brands, talked about rigs. I'm going to kind of jump the whole spread concept and go to management because it's very closely related to what I was just talking about. So I mentioned that I have the Decoy. Man, excuse me, guys. Hiccup, little whatever going on. So I mentioned that I have the Decoy totes. I actually purchased Rogers Sporting Goods brand Decoy totes, the dozen decoys. I didn't get one for the goose floaters I have yet. I might, I don't know. But I picked up 3 of these totes, and I got most of my decoys in them. And I highly recommend it. I haven't, okay, so word to the wise, I haven't had a chance to field test these yet. But as far as storing them goes, as far as carrying them goes, protecting your decoys and whatnot, and having less of a tangle issue, I highly recommend the Decoy totes. That being said, if you are hunting from a kayak, if you're doing a walk-in hunt, if it's a solo hunt, if you're not taking a boat or a buddy, probably not the best idea to use them. Now, you could carry that out there. It's got a shoulder strap. It's got a hand strap, hand handle, whatever you want to call it. You could carry that out, carry a tote out there, set your decoys, stash the tote, whatever it may be. That should work out okay. But it's rather bulky. As far as a kayak goes, I don't know about that, guys. They take up a decent amount of room. They're about 4 foot by, give or take 12 inches, and ballpark 16 inches high. And so, as far as a solo kayak hunt type deal, it's kind of pointless because, really all they're going to do is keep them organized in the truck or the vehicle until you get there. Because my idea, my concept, how I like to do things, or how I plan to do things, whatever you want to call it, with a solo hunt, kayak hunt, my goal is to use my carabiners that I have and basically throw however many decoys on one and on the other, whatever. So for right now, I've got the 6 Canada floaters on one carabiner, and then I've got I think a half a dozen, 6 or whatever mallards or so on another carabiner. And for me in a solo hunt where I cannot wade, a lot of the lakes around here I can't wade in. I mean, you could, but good luck. Nasty muck, merle bottom, very soft bottom. I'm sure there's something firm beneath it somewhere, but good luck. You'll be scuba diving before you know it. And so as far as wading goes, it's not an option. So for me, solo kayak hunts, my goal is to take about a dozen decoys or so, clip them to my kayak, tow them out there, set them out, and then boogie onto my hide in the bank and the weeds and whatever. And so as far as management goes, it's very situational, guys. If you have a boat, if you hunt primarily from a boat or blind or something like that, the totes, probably not a bad idea. They're not a bad idea in general for storage purposes. If you plan to store your decoys in the tote, I do recommend getting the tote that has the lid cover for it, or the top, The totes that I bought, they don't have the top, which is not a huge deal. I can cover them with, a tarp or a blanket or something. Just try to keep dust off them, keep them clean. Not a huge deal. But like I said, if you're not hunting from a boat or whatever, probably not ideal to take in a kayak. Probably not ideal to take on a walkout hunt. Your best bet's going to be to use a carabiner with a Texas rigs, throw them over your shoulder, and boogie on out. So there's that. That's my little tidbit on decoy management. And one last thing on decoy management, guys, before I move on real quick. One thing I found that has been extraordinarily helpful in keeping the decoys from getting too tangled up and stuff like that when I'm carrying them on a carabiner. I clip the carabiner to the Texas rigs, throw them over my shoulder, that kind of thing. One thing I found extraordinarily helpful is when you get your decoys hung on the carabiner, I try to hang them from something, in the garage. So I've got a little hoist in the garage. I'll hang them from that, or even the straps hanging down from my kayak hoist, something like that, where you can get them, just close enough off the ground, whatever, so most of the leader is straight. What I'll do is I'll run my hand down the leaders about halfway, and then I'll take a piece of tape, just a couple of wraps, and then leave a little pigtail. So leave 2 inches, fold it in half, stick it to itself so you got a tab, and just leave it taped in the middle. That helps a lot with keeping those from getting super, super tangled. And so when you get out there, and whatever tape you use, I don't recommend duct tape. That'd probably get a little too sticky. That'd probably be a pain in the butt. I've used electrical tape, and I've used painter's tape. Painter's tape, depending on the temperature, maybe. Same with electrical tape. But either way, I use an easily removable tape, but something that's going to hold up until I get there. And then what I do is, once you get out there and you're going to set them, grab a carabiner, pull that tab, unwrap it real quick, boom, you're good to go. And it saves a lot of time and a lot of hassle as far as untangling those go. So, little tip for you guys. You can try it. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But it's definitely helped me, and especially with the solo part, it's helped me not have to spend a lot of time untangling decoys. So, there's that for what it's worth. So, down to the brass tacks, ladies and gentlemen, and Canadians too. Little joke there. But no offense, Canada. You guys are kind of weird, but we like you. Somewhat. Your government's a little, but we'll let you guys take care of that. Anywho's, so one of the biggest issues I was facing with my first season of duck hunting, waterfowl hunting, is, okay, I know I need decoys. Well, I probably don't need them, but it's probably a really good chance I'm going to need them. So, okay, I know I need decoys. I can go out and buy decoys, whatever. Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. What do I do with them? What do I do with my decoys once I got them? Now, I will refer you guys once again to Surviving Duck Season. There are several videos about this on how to set up a spread and ways, there's a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people on the internet that will tell you how they like to do it. So, do some research for yourself. But while you're listening, we'll talk about it a little bit. So, in theory, guys, the ideal setup is basically a funnel to you. And I like to think of it like a spider's web. If you guys have ever seen a decent size, like a garden orb spider or garden spider, whatever they're called, in the fall, there's pictures up on the Instagram of one. They make very elaborate webs. So basically, think of Charlotte's Web, minus the writing and all the ridiculous cartoonishness. But that kind of spider making a very large web, right? Well, what's the purpose of the web? Catch insects. Okay, so different spiders make different webs. But what I'm getting at is, have you ever seen a funnel web? I'm kind of all over the place here, guys. Don't worry about it. You're at work. It's all good. Anywho, so a funnel web. Oddly enough, brown recluse spiders make a funnel web. A funnel web is meant to attract stuff into where the spider is, and so, long story short, you're making a web. You're making a funnel, trying to triangulate and direct traffic, air traffic, to you, or to the kill zone, I should say. And so, basically, the general concept is some sort of pattern that funnels or directs birds into a shootable opportunity. This can come in a lot of ways. It can come in a lot of patterns. One that I found that's basically what I try to do with myself is I try to kind of, it's not an exact V by any means. So V, it's not an exact V or triangle, however you want to look at it. But I try to make a loose funnel. And what I mean by that is on one side of where, I pick a spot. I check the wind, I pick the spot where I can hide. I take all these things into consideration, where the sun's going to be, where's the wind direction going, what kind of foliage, what kind of grass, what kind of weeds do I have to hide in, where can I get the boat into or the kayak into. There's a lot of things that go into consideration for how you're going to set your decoys, but the general concept is what I'm talking about. So once I found a spot that seems good, ideally with the sun at my back, the wind at my back, and lots of grass and stuff to hide in, cool. So the general concept is you want decoys to be a funnel, like I said, but for me, what I like to do is I imagine a V from wherever I want the shootable kill zone to be, and then I will kind of scatter decoys out. And so I should have brought some paper or something like this to draw a loose concept here for you guys. I'll try to use my note page here, and I'll try to make it big enough you guys can see. So at the bottom here, I'm going to put the X, because you want to be sitting on that X. And before that, about 15, 20 yards, 10, 15, 20, whatever yards, will be the kill zone. I'm going to mark that with a K. And draw a little line for some weeds. We're going to pretend there's weeds out here. We're nice and camouflage, guys. It'll work out pretty good, right? So in front of, I guess, around the K, you want decoys kind of strung about. And you want to, like I said, you want to make a funnel, but you don't want to make it like super obvious, like a straight V. You don't want them lined up in a V, because that's not natural. It is when waterfowl are flying, but not so much when they're on the water, because they're moving about. They're doing all sorts of stuff. They're socializing. They're preening. They're eating. They're sleeping. And so you're going to have a hodgepodge of stuff and that kind of thing. So and I'm going to draw a little bit of a line here. I'm going to outline the spread here, guys. And this is just a general idea. Like I said, guys, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. And realistically, it's 99% of it's situational, guys. You're going to have to work with what you got. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this at all. Oh, I'll try to get the glare off of it. So if you see that weird horseshoe-shaped thing, that's essentially the outline of the spread. And the weird mark, the K that you can't see at the yoke of that horseshoe, is the kill zone that I'm going for. And then the weird mark beneath it is the X. And bear with me. I'm just going to stand up and get close to the camera so you guys can see this. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so as you can see in my beautiful artwork here, let's get these headphones back on because it sounds weird now. It was really weird getting used to the headphones, but now that I got used to them, it sounds horrible without them. You awake, bro? Sleepy doggy. Sleep. Anywho. So as you guys saw in my beautiful drawing here, the general concept is you want to have a pocket, aka the kill zone, that is relatively open, and you want your decoys kind of strung about, hodgepodge here and there. Make a mix, mixed up a little bit, that kind of thing. And the idea is to make a pocket for the birds that are in the area when you call them that they want to land in that pocket. And so a lot of times what I've tried to do in the past is I started off with something like this, and then I modified it a little bit to where I would use the landscape or the weeds to my advantage, so that on the right side of where I'm sitting, I have weeds 20 yards here, and so I would make it to where there's not a very good spot to easily land with my decoys to this side, and I would have a few strung out over here to this side, Not as many, so pretty heavy on one side versus the other next to that natural barrier. And so that way the ducks have plenty of room to land, over here and stuff like that. So basically, use what you have to your advantage. And like I said, guys, just think about it like creating where you want that zone to be, and trying to set up a runway to where you have an open area where you want incoming traffic to land, and corralling and fencing off naturally looking-ish areas with your decoys. They're not only attractant, but they can also direct traffic. It's kind of cool. And so, like I said, if you guys are, hypothetically speaking, you guys are in a pocket with, it's a natural corner-ish of a stream, a bay, a pond, where maybe there's a natural corner with a lot of vegetation that's kind of a physical barrier, and you got tall trees behind that. The wind's over your right shoulder, so you've got barrier here, wind here. They're going to want to land into the wind. Makes it a lot easier for them and stuff. So you've got a natural barrier here already. Instead of getting them to face into that barrier, it's a lot easier for them to have open water that they can cross, see from a distance, and land into. Yeah, I'm getting in the weeds, but use what you have to your advantage. That's what I'm getting at, guys. I'm already getting long-winded on this one as it is. So I may dive into this more on the next episode, but as far as your decoy spread goes, try to match what you have in your local area. So, for example, northern Indiana, it is predominantly going to be Canadas and mallards. That's about it. We do have woodies. As far as teal go, I've never seen one. Don't know. Don't know. So, that being said, I do have a couple of teal in my spread because I know we have them. But it's, my duck season spread is not heavy on teal. As far as coots, I don't think I've seen a coot around here. So probably not going to throw one in there. Like I said, my spread is very heavy on mallards. I've got the Canadas in there as well, and I've got a couple wood ducks in there as well. I'm trying to match what kind of migration and birds I see in my area to make it look normal. If you go out, hypothetically say on the West Coast, what do you guys, what do they have out there? Pintails? If you're going on a pintail hunt and you throw in a bunch of wood ducks, your spread is, 50% wood ducks, 50% mallards. It might still work. I don't know. But it may also seem really odd to those birds, and they may be a little weary of it. So, anywho, more on this whole topic and maybe a couple other topics on the next episode. But just kind of an icebreaker episode onto the information side of things and trying to share information with you guys and hopefully help you guys out. We'll see. I don't know. Worst case scenario, I'm just a crazy guy talking to himself in his garage. And that's okay. So, sorry, guys. Kind of long-winded on this episode. I do apologize for that. I try to keep it around the 40-ish minute mark or a fuzz over. But thanks for listening, guys. And until next time, get out there, stay safe, get after it, and I'll catch you later. Peace. Check out Hastings Outdoors on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening.